Hello, and welcome to Spotlight On, the podcast that brings together business leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts covering a range of topics. I'm Nicholas Barton, founder and CEO of the Barton Partnership. We're an award-winning executive recruitment and consulting solutions firm providing permanent search and independent consulting services across strategy, sustainability and M&A, data and analytics, and transformation and change.
Hello and welcome to the Spotlight on Sustainability podcast series. I'm Ashley Gordon and I am the Barton Partnership's EMEA-wide lead for ESG and sustainability services. And today I'm joined by Melissa Barrett, the Global Sustainability and Social Impact Lead for DSS+, a firm that is focused on protecting, transforming and sustaining what organisations care for, their people, their assets, their communities and the competitiveness of their company for future generations. Thank you very much for joining me on our Spotlight on Sustainability podcast series today. Absolute pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be here, Ash.
Look, I think a great way to start this conversation off would be by you sharing a little bit around your background and your career journey to date, if that's okay.
Absolutely. If you're interested, I can give you the potted history. Where I sit today, I feel like I'm an amalgamation of my experiences, of my clients, because I'm a consultant, of the people I've worked with. And that richness, I think, is something that I treasure a lot. My background is I started off as an environmental scientist working in research and development institutions in Australia and in the UK. And that science background saw me through a PhD as well, to which I reflect back on with joy and fear at the same time. But I moved on into consulting, and the consulting journey that I've had through strategy consulting, through to more implementation consulting, and my role here now at DSS+. This journey has been something that I feel like has been me falling forward into my clients' challenges and needs, if you like, and using the experience that I collect along the way to be able to address that. So it hasn't been a destination. I haven't thought that's what I want to be, but rather quite enjoying the journey of finding out, exploring, and being able to then think through those experiences are going to be beneficial to my clients and also my wellness, my happiness, and where I focus my time.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And you're currently the Global Head of Sustainability Services at DSS+. So can you share with us a little bit around your primary responsibilities, but also the objectives you have for this role?
I can. And the Global Head of Sustainability Services and Corporate Impact has a big ring to it. My main focus really is on supporting the growth of our sustainability services practice and to really help think through how we bring the best of our capabilities to serve our clients. Now, sustainability services can be a pure subject, if you like, around sustainability and ESG type consulting. But I have an extended role, which is really about how we at DSS+ think about bringing capabilities in operational excellence, in operational risk management, safety transformation, and more broadly, capabilities on digital and learning and development to solve our clients' challenges. And so we don't just look at sustainability as a practice area, but rather as an amalgamation of capabilities that we can pair up and team across our organisation. So my role is to facilitate that and to help us deliver the best impact we can with our clients, hence the link into corporate impact as well. So my objectives here at the moment is to support our journey there, but really to be able to mobilise our business to be able to have the best impact we can with our clients. And ultimately for us, that means about helping them build resilient and sustainable businesses.
Great. And you talked there about embedding sustainability into other practice areas as well. How are you finding that part of the journey with DSS+? Because I know it is, I think, a major challenge for a lot of organizations to make sure sustainability kind of is business as usual.
I think it's actually, we've got a natural place of fit here. When I joined DSS+ in January of last year, of 2022, there was actually already what was feeling like a movement or a momentum DSS Plus has a history in risk and safety and operations consulting. And by definition, it was a very purpose-driven business. The organization itself has a strong purpose about building a safe and sustainable world. But people were turning up with real passion for this area. Being able to build in sustainability into what people are doing is just a natural step. And in fact, I think there's a huge amount of pull from our business to be able to get some of those capabilities to be more relevant for their clients as well, because operational efficiencies don't sit separate from sustainability. Risk management doesn't sit separately from sustainability. Safety doesn't sit separately. And so there was already, I think, a big pull here. And I think there's probably a challenge on my time and the team's time a little bit, because I don't know that we can work fast enough sometimes to be able to support our clients being able to bring that fuller proposition to their services as well.
Great. And I think most people will know you from your consulting journey. But to take it back, you started your career as an ecologist and scientific researcher, as you previously mentioned. What initially inspired you to make that shift into consulting? And how has your scientific background enriched your approach to sustainability?
It is a moment in time that is a bit crazy, actually. And it's nice to tell a little story, perhaps, because I had been in scientific research, ecologist. I'd been doing some environmental consulting, I guess, boots on ground kind of stuff. And I had just finished my PhD, and I had a grant application in to do an amazing project around looking at moss cores and being able to look at climate change through moss cores in Antarctica. I had been working a bit with the British Antarctic Survey. I had also been finishing off my PhD and thinking, what's next? I'd probably had 10, 12, 15, I can probably check for you if you like, applications to environmental consultants. All rejected. I didn't even get an interview. I had a research grant application for this amazing project. And on the very same day, I had a sliding door moment. I had the grant application declined, which was a bit of a horrible moment. And then I had a job offer from Arthur D. Little, actually, at the time. And so it was this moment, it was serendipitous. It was one of those things it could have gone either way, and I could have taken up a career in science. So it's interesting, this moment in time, then I fell forward again, as I mentioned before, falling forward. So this was a shift that I think actually was really good for me. I had always felt that I wanted depth and I wanted subject matter expertise, and hence the PhD journey as well. But I think the consulting gave me breadth. And it's possibly one of the better things for my journey, because it suits me better to be able to have that breadth of thinking, joining dots, which is where I love to be. But today, looking back and having a scientific background, having the academic credentials within that, and being able to say that I am science-based or science-driven, I have that sense of credibility that comes from that background, which I think has stood me in good stead. Is it because of the content I knew or learned or experiences? Not so much. It's probably been more of a confidence builder that I have that platform to be able to step from as well. So it's just interesting to balance out that background with how I now use that background. It's two different things.
I think that's a really important lesson as well, to have had that many rejections, to finally come back full circle into ESG or sustainability consulting as well. So do you feel there's a particular lesson for you in there that you could share with a wider audience? I
do. Maybe some people will reflect on this. I remember getting so many declines because I didn't have a particular certification or certificate, or I hadn't done something specific that I worked out later was a 2-day course in something. I realized that most of the applications I was putting forward, they were They weren't looking really for someone with the sort of potential to grow. They were looking for someone to serve a very particular purpose at the time. And I was very lucky to then find an organization that was interested in your own journey, as well as sort of ticking the boxes on what you could do on day one. So for me, there's a bit of resilience in there, a bit of exploring, and also looking a bit wider than perhaps what you might have done or might have thought was your fit. So stepping back, thinking wider, a little bit of resilience goes a long way.
Great message. I'm sure many can learn from that as well. And moving forward, I think, look, we're clearly living in a rapidly changing global landscape. A number of challenges we've faced and seen this year, and even in recent weeks as well. But what are some of the major challenges businesses face when trying to advance their sustainability agendas?
It's a big topic, eh? It's a big question. One of the reasons I joined DSS Plus was because I saw that the biggest challenges were less on the what. They were less on the sort of strategy setting, goal setting, and it was much more on the how. And so for me, this move to DSS Plus to be able to be more focused on the how, more focused on the transformational journey, more focused on unblocking what's blocked and those sorts of things has been a big part of this. The challenges that I'm seeing that relate to this are often around decision making. The decisions that senior leads and our clients are having to make are not only going to see them through the next quarter or the year, they're making decisions that are for 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 odd years. And that's tough as a leader and decision maker when perhaps you don't have all of the knowledge to be able to make those decisions. So I think that's one of those, which is around decision making. Secondly, I think complexity, the sustainability and the ESG expectations, whether it's from investors or whether that's from regulation or others, is just really complex at the moment. If you look at it from 40,000 feet, it's crazy. And it's only when you get under the skin of the particular company operations, industry, and understanding of the strategy of the organization that you can sort of unpick this complexity. For many people, it is an area that is almost stifling for being able to move forward. And the other one is the speed of change and the volume and speed of change. There's so much happening now to which organizations need to make quick decisions on in order to comply or be competitive. They're fairly generic challenges, perhaps, but you can say net zero is the biggest challenge, if you like, or you can say around business security, supply chain security for some, right? These specific topics are all there, but holistically, I think it's these unblocking the decision making and the organizational change elements.
It's a great way to put it. I think from the conversations I have in the market, it's very often we're hearing about people talking about very specific issues of one of the core topics that they're talking about, not necessarily the decision making amongst leaders. And it also goes back to your point earlier about embedding sustainability into business as usual as well. So clearly going to be important and part of the core strategy that will be pivotal for success moving forward. Could you share examples of how companies have successfully gone beyond mere KPIs to embed sustainability into their fundamental operations as well?
I can probably give you loads here. I think on one hand, I'm not sure there's any company that's winning the game here at all. But in terms of some notes on embedding sustainable practices, I think it's useful just to circle back to this point as well, because there's one thing about embedding sustainable practices. Many companies think that that's about having the right KPIs at the top, the right strategy and KPIs, and that's going to work. But actually, I think there's a lot of companies who are needing to think more about what are the process changes to enable that. Is the organization ready to be able to deliver those changes or to even hold those KPIs? Are those KPIs working together? We're not having KPIs that are going to be at odds across different departments or businesses. I think there's a lot to think about here as well around the particular things that make an organisation tick, and have we unblocked those? So I think some of the organisations we've been working with that are on this journey, we're working with an oil and gas major at the moment as well around particularly that leadership decision making. And partly, I think that is not just about having a KPI or a strategy, but being able to have a leadership team on the same page and being able to make decisions together and perhaps even get off the fence there. Working with a food and beverage client as well at the moment, who has been on a very top-down journey. It's been fundamental to see the innovation that sustainability has brought to the company, the KPIs and so forth is part of that. But what they've found successful is not only having the KPIs, but having the leadership sponsor, so ensuring any program has a leadership sponsor, and to enable the organization. So what is it within the organization that is going to change? What is it in the organization that needs to be levered, if you like, to be able to deliver sustainability? And then I think others are where you see a lot more innovation happening along the supply chain, and whether that's in the chemicals industry, the textiles industry, the food industry, this sense of it's a system, and mere KPIs and embedding sustainability into a process is not going to work unless you've actually sorted out your supply chain or understood how your customers are going to be able to be part of that journey too. So I think embedding practices is one piece. Creating the organizational culture and change and capabilities to be able to enable that is are two different things.
Maybe this next question is quite simplistic, but in terms of the change required, particularly around the leadership piece, how far advanced are we compared to perhaps where we were 5 years ago, pre-pandemic? Have you seen a big shift on that side of things?
I think there's been a huge shift. It changes, though, depending on the industry and the market in which the board or the leaders are. I'm here in London right today, but there's some very different perspectives globally. On the whole, though, there's a fundamental change in awareness. And that awareness isn't just driven by the expectation on disclosures and regulation, but around innovation, and this increased awareness from leadership to make change is really quite interesting. So I've seen a lot here. Awareness and intention are big. I think the other aspects that I see here is that leaders they're taking themselves off to do executive training on sustainability, of course, but that executive training sometimes is just it's filling a few gaps. It's telling them a few things they didn't know, but it's more about giving them that sight, the confidence to be able to help make those decisions. I also see a real intention around the value from sustainability, whether that is around cost reduction and risk reduction, or really trying to identify how to monetize a product or how to find new markets. And so the discussion is not about issue management. The discussion is not about how do you minimize so much, but there's quite a lot about it being core to the value proposition of the company. And so I think there's been a fundamental shift in the last 4 or 5 years.
Good. And you mentioned around board members taking themselves off on training days around this topic, which I think leads quite nicely into the next question. And obviously, serving as a director at DSS Plus, as well as your non-exec director roles across other diverse organizations, it positions you nicely at the intersection of strategic decision-making. So how can board members proactively equip themselves with the right knowledge to effectively oversee and drive sustainable business practices?
Yeah, I think and this comment right around going off to do executive training course one-on-one and things like that is it shows the interest from an individual level. I think what makes a difference at a board is when there's the right teaming when executives engaged enough in the organization to understand really how it works, how people work, how people make decisions, understand the challenges of business, as well as being able to think through those opportunities. Leadership is, and we talk about servant leadership a lot in many cases, but you really need to understand the business levers as well, because in order to make these larger board level decisions, you need to then be able to follow through with the organizational change that needs to happen. So I think that's a big part of it. The other aspect is trust, I think, and board members don't act individually, but good debate, discussion, trusting in one another's viewpoints and perspectives, I think, is a critical part of that as well. And it's not as though you need to know everything about the energy transition and decarbonisation to make good judgment calls. A little bit of education and knowledge goes a long way, but being able to interrogate those decisions from a financial point of view, from an organizational change point of view, and also from the sense of being able to make a mark, whether that's in 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10, 50. It's a big part of it.
Okay, thank you. And it's one of the final questions, which is topic obviously close to my heart, but I know something you are passionate about as well. For those navigating a career in sustainability, there are unique obstacles. From your perspective, what are some of the common challenges professionals face in this field? But also, how have you used your journey to inspire and assist others entering into the sustainability space?
It's a great question. I've found over the last, and maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 5-10 years, I'm often called up for career advice. How do I get into sustainability, or do you have a job, or whatever it might be? And that can come from the new graduates. That can also come from the senior executives looking for career changes. And it's interesting on both of these fronts. The perspective I have for both is to recognize the value in having good understanding of the business. The business could be an industry. The business could be a function. The business could be in product development. A key part of career journeys in sustainability, I think, is not necessarily having the sustainability credentials necessarily, but having the business credentials to which you can apply the sustainability theory of change, if you like. So as new graduates coming into this sort of area, I was like, really go and really sink into how are businesses run, how's the supply chain run, go and work in product development or another place, because with those skills, with that experience, you've built the muscles to be able to then apply sustainability, to be able to embed sustainability, understand how a business ticks. And then at more executive levels, or even mid-management, there's sometimes a lack of appreciation of the competencies, capabilities, the muscles that have been formed through your career, to which are perfectly suited to be able to drive a transformational change in sustainability as well. And so sometimes it's that reflecting on your own competencies, strengths and capabilities to think, actually, no, I'm in the perfect place. I don't need a career change. I'm in the perfect place to be able to activate a sustainability driven change or organization, and then use that as a stepping stone as well. I think that would be my big takeaway around the whole career in sustainability space. I don't see that slowing down either. We have a lot of new people trying to get into sustainability from a consulting perspective, from industry, where they may well be best placed actually sticking in industry and really activating the change from inside.
That's an interesting point. Not everything I've seen and heard, but a lot of major change seems to be coming out of consulting. But you feel that actually being in industry, you get a real direct opportunity for change. How true do you feel that is in most cases? Do you feel like perhaps there are stronger consulting propositions that enable you to have greater change, better opportunities to influence the board and exec? I mean, it's a debate that lasts as long as the consulting industry has been around, I guess.
I think there's a big change at the moment happening around consulting and the need for expertise, the need for that industry expertise. Being closer to the client challenges as a consultant is really important. And so as a career consultant myself, sometimes I feel, I a bit more industry knowledge would go a long way. I've built different muscles, that's fine. But I do think there's an opportunity for those who are in consulting to have that sway or that influence at board level and be independent about it. And sometimes organizations need that independent support. In other times as well, I think it's much more around having the muscles in the organization to make that change, and a little bit of it is the confidence, the leadership, the organizational approaches that need to come together to be able to create change. An organization, they know their organization better than anybody else. Consultants provide a really rich angle, not just on technical sustainability aspects, in being able to help businesses keep to the knitting, stick to what they're good at and what they do, and to be able to rely on consultants when it's not core business.
Great answer. Thank you. Quite a tricky question, I feel, as well. And look, finally, I think the main question I would love to ask, do you feel optimistic that we'll achieve our goal of net zero by 2050?
I'm in this field, Ash. I need to be optimistic. To be honest, I think I flip-flop a little bit, but I'm super optimistic. The level to which we've seen change in the last few years is really interesting. And this is not just from a mature big brand sustainability perspective, which we've been promising that for 15, 20 years, right? But you're seeing this within the heart of some of the trickiest industries to change. And I think if we're going to be optimistic and if we're going to achieve any sorts of goals for 2050, then it's a combination of innovation and entrepreneurship and dedication and resilience. But we need to also lean into the sectors and the systems that are some of those that are the hardest to be able to change. And so that's a little bit of where we sit within DSS Plus as well, is we don't shy away from these big challenges, don't shy away from the industries that perhaps need the support the most.
Another great answer. And I think it's a great way to finish this off. So all that's left to say is thank you very much for joining me. It's been wonderful to hear your story, not only a story of the journey into DSS Plus, but one of initial rejection leading into a fantastic consulting career. And I think that's something that hopefully the people that listen to this will really take something away from. On top of that, the career opportunities that also exist, not only for those coming from a graduate level, but those right across up to board and execs, and how they can start to embed sustainability into their business. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ash.